This island and these islands have incredibly strong and long-standing connections with the United States. Connections that go both ways, and they include economic, cultural and familial ones. As we try to navigate how our relations will remain strong and effective within and across these islands and between these islands and Europe, we also need to think about how our relations can be strengthened through our common bonds with the United States. That is why I am delighted to introduce our closing keynote speaker, Mr. Paul Narain. Although a career member of the US Diplomatic Service since 2002, having served in Azerbaijan and twice in India, Paul Narain has only very recently taken up his duties as US Consul General in Belfast in August. He most recently served as political and economic counselor at the US Embassy in Sweden. His previous assignments include service as Deputy Political Counselor at the US Embassy in Pakistan, and prior to that, as Deputy Economic Counselor at the US Embassy in Greece. In Washington, Mr. Narain has served in the Operations Center, the State Department's Crisis Management Hub, and on the Executive Secretariat staffs of Secretary of State Rice and Clinton. Mr. Narain has received several superior and meritorious honor awards. In 2013, he was awarded the American Foreign Service Association's Matilda W. Sinclair Award for Outstanding Foreign Language Study. In 2018, he received the department-wide James Clement Dunn Award for Excellence. It is my pleasure then to ask Mr. Paul Narain to now address this, our 22nd annual conference.
Chairman, Minister, panelists, and of course, distinguished online guests. It's an honor to be here today to close the Center for Cross-Border Studies' 22nd annual conference. I recognize that this forum is critically important, not just because of the subject at hand, but from the caliber and diversity of its participants as well. Complex issues with far-reaching effects for these islands have been addressed and debated, and I'm sure that good will come from your discussions. I have not been here in Northern Ireland for very long, and I have had a lot more to learn about the complex and deeply fascinating and interdependent relationships that exist within and between these islands. But I do understand that ongoing engagement has a particular resonance for the well-being and continued progress of this region. Many local leaders have described to me how some of the most difficult challenges you faced were confronted through sustained and at times painstaking dialogue. As an honest broker, the United States played its part by providing safe, neutral space for local leaders to engage away from the public gaze. To put it another way, the remarkable progress enjoyed throughout Northern Ireland did not happen in silos or echo chambers, but through difficult conversations and a commitment to relationship building. It's an obvious thing to say, but one of the many negative consequences of the pandemic here and across the world has been the decline in informal and informal face-to-face conversations. Technology, like the platforms we're using today, have helped sustain connections, but the lack of human interaction has been to the detriment of us all. Indeed, face-to-face conversation is the lifeblood of my profession, diplomacy, and at the heart of conflict negotiation everywhere. It is something I think we will not soon again take for granted. When circumstances allow, I hope that the consulate will once again be a facilitator of face-to-face dialogue. And I also hope I will have the chance to meet you all in person soon. Until then, if I may, I'd like to provide a U.S. perspective on some of the themes that you have touched on today. First, and above all, I am extremely cognizant of the diversity of opinion that still exists around Brexit. The 2016 referendum brought far-reaching challenges to a region that shares a border with an EU member state, and it would be wholly remiss not to acknowledge the complexity of what's at play. I also come into this discussion recognizing the unique dynamics that still exist here after years of protracted and bitter conflict. Yet, the United States' position around Brexit remains unambiguous. We want a strong and prosperous United Kingdom to remain a leader in Europe, and we want both the United Kingdom and the European Union to remain strong leaders within the global community. The content of current discussions are obviously a matter for the United Kingdom and the European Union, but the Biden administration has been clear. we encourage all parties to ensure that Northern Ireland's political and economic stability is at the forefront of discussions. You, more than anyone, are aware of how political negotiations work and that progress and agreement can sometimes occur when it seems least possible. Your lesson to the world is that seemingly insurmountable challenges are best overcome through strong leadership, compromise, and a determined collective will to work for the common good. We will continue to support both sides' efforts to engage in productive and cooperative dialogue to resolve differences in a way that will keep Northern Ireland's social and economic interests, the interests of the people of Northern Ireland, at the core. Now, some of you might know already that the first Consul General to Belfast was appointed because of trade and commerce. Today, we may have a slightly wider remit 2 centuries on, but business and two-way trade is still extremely important to us. Around 60% of foreign direct investment into Northern Ireland comes from the United States. More than 1,100 international companies now operate here, including major US firms like Microsoft and Allstate, as well as Aflac and Seagate. And over the last month, we've even seen 4 foreign direct investment announcements from the United States, proving once again that the region still has the infrastructure and the human skill to give Americans full confidence that they can and they should do business here. I was just at the Northern Ireland Business Showcase in London, and I heard firsthand from leading entrepreneurs that Northern Ireland already has the top-notch skills, people, and infrastructure to be a world leader in the economy of the future. And in my short time in office, I can already see just how true that is. I should add that Northern Ireland's devolved power-sharing institutions have played a pivotal role in drawing some of this investment. Every branch of the US government believes that these institutions remain the best mechanism for Northern Ireland to have a voice and to shape its own path. To address far-reaching events like Brexit, people here need an effective, stable, and responsive regional government more than ever. So, as you navigate your immediate challenges, the US government will remain resolute supporters of the Northern Ireland Executive, the Assembly, and of your other devolved institutions. Good politics is key, but over the course of today, you have also addressed the social context around the conditions for post-Brexit cooperation. Indeed, some of the panelists today played a truly historic role in that arena. I've been told that groups like the Glen Cree Center are among the unsung heroes who worked tirelessly to unite and empower communities at the grassroots level. We should never forget their contribution. For our part, our $600 million aggregate funding to the International Fund for Ireland has benefited many communities across Northern Ireland and in the border counties of Ireland. Another example is Boston College. With the help of a congressional grant in 1997, this institution worked with the consulate and our embassy colleagues in Dublin for over 10 years to deliver over 100 all-island exchanges. These programs united over 1,300 professionals from across both jurisdictions to address practical day-to-day issues like economic development, health, education, and tourism. All of this work and cooperation is based on the necessity of expanding our working relations beyond communities, beyond neighborhoods, beyond borders. When President Biden and Vice President Harris met Northern Ireland's former First and Deputy First Minister in Washington in March, they raised a very important point. They acknowledged that the balance of Northern Ireland's multifaceted relationships benefited all of Northern Ireland's communities. By this, they meant 3 things. First, they meant the North-South dimension. Positive and mutually beneficial cross-border relationships between the 2 jurisdictions on this island must be cherished and sustained. Second, they meant the East-West dimension. The Good Friday Agreement recognized that the destinies of these islands remain inextricably tied through commerce, kinship, and culture. And, as co-guarantors of the Good Friday Agreement, the relationship between the governments of the United Kingdom and Ireland remains a cornerstone of stability here. Third, they meant the internal relationships within Northern Ireland. You'll probably agree that much has been achieved in healing societal divisions here, but much more needs to be done. And you are not alone. The United States has its own very real challenges around division, but we've learned that this takes every sector of society, business, government, community groups, working together toward a shared future. My final point, and this may come as a surprise to some of you, is that many of the challenges you face are not wholly unique. In the United States, our 50 states are bound together in a single economic unit, but many state governments work in collaboration with neighboring states to address areas of mutual economic need. Connecticut, for example, is roughly comparable in size to Northern Ireland. West Virginia is just slightly smaller than the area that covers the 26 counties of the Republic of Ireland. Both of these regions have multi-state economic initiatives that include their respective neighbors. And if you look at our national borders, the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement now addresses nearly all aspects of North American trade. It provides strengthened intellectual property protections. It facilitates digital trade, expands high-paying jobs in the auto sector, and incorporates enforceable labor and environmental standards. In all of our domestic agreements and with our international partners, we have to continually engage, refine, and negotiate in order to protect national interests or capitalize on areas of mutual benefit. And as you address the immediate opportunities and the challenges facing these islands, that same ongoing engagement will be necessary. I have no doubt in your commitment, no doubt in your collective capacity to do this. During my first visit to Northern Ireland as lead advance for Secretary Clinton in 2009, the devolution of policing and justice and the appointment of a new justice minister was at play. It was a brief visit, but I saw enough of your talent and resolve to give me ample confidence in your collective ability to confront every challenge and seize the opportunities that you face. Our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, is credited with saying that the best way to predict your future is to create it. And I commend you all for your individual and collective endeavors. You can guarantee that the United States will remain an advocate and a friend. I am grateful to the Center for Cross-Border Studies for the opportunity to engage with you all today, and I look forward to meeting you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that keynote address, that closing keynote address. We couldn't have asked for anything better to close this 22nd annual conference of the Center for Cross-Border Studies, and really appreciate you giving us the time to give us that perspective, which was really intricate, complex, rich. So I'm really grateful to you. We are all grateful to you for that. But if you don't mind, I'm going to abuse my situation here in terms of just posing a couple of questions that have been sent in from the audience, if you don't mind.
Sure, that sounds
I
great.
know your time is precious, but just a couple of questions. And the first one actually comes from Michael Darcy, who happens actually to be a senior research associate with the Center for Cross-Border Studies, but he's also an independent advisor for the IBEX-CBI Joint Business Council. So his question is, and forgive me, I'm going to put my glasses on now. This shows my age. So Michael asks, what is the current status of the negotiations between the United States and the UK on a new trade agreement between the US and the UK? And how, in practical terms, is the US administration going to go about protecting the Good Friday Agreement within the framework of those discussions around a new trade agreement between the US and the UK?
Well, thank you for the question. And first, let me say how much I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience. It's a real honor and a privilege, certainly in my first month in office. So thank you for the invitation. On the question, I think it goes without saying that the strong trade and investment relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom is really critical to our mutual prosperity, and it's something that we look forward to seeing grow in the months and years ahead. President Biden has said clearly that he will make significant domestic investments in the United States and for all American workers before he signs any new trade deals. And I think, as you know, and has been said publicly, our trade representative, Ambassador Tai, is leading a thorough review to determine exactly where bilateral trade negotiations are, what progress was made by the previous administration, and what is the best way forward. So we look forward to engaging with the British government in the weeks and months ahead on this. But it goes without saying that the US-UK trade relationship is critical to our mutual prosperity, and we're going to work very hard to get it right.
So there's a lot of homework to be done first before...
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're still in early stages, and that intensive homework is ongoing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question that we have, if you don't mind, is from Kerry Curran from Intertrade Ireland. Intertrade Ireland, as you're probably very much aware, manages the US-Ireland R&D partnership, which is a tri-jurisdictional alliance between Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the US. That alliance enables collaborative and innovative research projects which create value above and beyond individual efforts. The programme to date has supported more than 100 million euros worth of collaborative R&D. So the question really to you is, how important do you think continued high-value partnerships, such as the US-Ireland partnership, are to demonstrating the value of cross-border collaboration to the benefit of both economies? Can more be done to capitalise on the advantages such partnerships can generate?
Oh, I think the question speaks for itself. Without question, and first let me begin by saying I haven't actually had the chance to visit with Intertrade Ireland, so I really look forward to doing that and to learning more about the depth of our R&D relationship programs. What I do want to say is that, you know, no one institution in particular, either here or in the United States, has all of the research, expertise, or answers to the complex questions that are confronting them. So it goes without saying then that a US-Ireland R&D partnership is really an exceptionally good way to draw together some of the world's leading institutions to advance innovation and problem solving. And it really demonstrates to me a healthy commitment to collaboration and a real willingness to play to each other's strengths. And that's what we need to be doing to taking on these very difficult problems we're confronting today. In many ways, I think the partnership itself epitomizes the United States' evolving role in supporting a more outward and confident Northern Ireland. And once our energies here were singularly devoted to promote and encourage political progress. We care deeply about that, as I was saying. But we're also firmly in the arena of supporting initiatives like this one that are of mutual benefit and toward our shared goals of prosperity and toward confronting our toughest global challenges. Finally, let me say, I think the partnership is a real reflection of the reputation that the island enjoys across many sectors: science, agriculture, sustainability, and health. And so despite the many uncertainties you have all talked about today, I think the partnership shows the vitality of cross-border trade, cooperation, and multidisciplinary collaboration that I think is probably at the heart of the future of the relationship.
Thank you, Paul. And just not a question, just a comment or an acknowledgement of the time that you've given us today, and we're really grateful for you for doing that. But also the fact that you've demonstrated, you spoke during your address in terms of within the 50 states of the United States, the importance of collaboration between states. You also acknowledged that cooperation is not just about cooperation in terms of trade and the economy, and not just about politics as well in terms of the cooperation at a political level. It's also about society, communities, and we're really grateful for you today for bringing to a close almost this 22nd annual conference. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
We would encourage other people to get involved because there's no harm in having conversations. The reality is that business found its voice during the Brexit process, but it can't be the only voice. It's got to get in there alongside policymakers, the third sector, get in there alongside our politicians to ensure that there's a deeper understanding, that there's an evidence base and an academic rigour to ensure that the right policy decisions are taken for the future.